In this video, I'm going to cover how I went from these small Flipdot modules into this large Flipdot display. But first, a bit of history. The Flipdot or flip disk display was developed by Kenyon Taylor and Ferranti Packard. It was originally intended to be used by the Trans-Canada Airlines. However, development took so long that the TCA lost interest and the project was later implemented with the Montreal Stock Exchange. This is currently an image of that. And here's another image from the 80s. Since they were the first of their kind, most of these displays in the stock exchange were manually assembled. And because of their success, eventually Flipdots became popular for signage in places such as airports, though many airports use these split flap displays. Buses, where they replaced the manual rolling signs, or trains, are other places where Flipdot signs were used. For many applications, they were superior to the previous technologies because they offered high UV resistance, used a small amount of power when not changing, and because they were easy to reconfigure. Now let's look at these small 1x7 Flipdot modules. The display that I made has 21 of these in line. Each individual Flipdot has 2 coils on opposing sides. There's a magnet inside each disc that is pulled to either side depending on the polarity. So I've connected up my power supply so we can see this in action. If I touch the legs this way, it'll turn off. Now I'm going to flip the leads. Now I have the positive leg on the back side, and if I connect the leads, we can see that the reverse behavior happens. If you're an electronics engineer, you can immediately see a problem with this, as each Flipdot pretty much requires its own H-bridge driver. Arranging them in a matrix like this is inherently challenging, because each dot requires that their connection can be reversed at any point. But all of these dots are holding their state when they're powered off. So when you drive a larger display like this one, you only talk to one dot at a time. Now I'm going to tear down the display. So I currently have it powered off, and both the legs are removable. The rear cover is held in with some catches, so I'm going to remove these off screen. Now that those have released, we can take off the back cover, and we can see the board inside. Over here we have the power input section along with a resettable fuse. This box right here converts the 12 volt to 5 volt for the Raspberry Pi. I could have gone with an ESP32 instead of the Raspberry Pi, and I did design the driver board right here to be compatible with an ESP32, but I just had a Raspberry Pi in hand, so that's what I went with. The rest of the board here is essentially one long shift register chain, which drive their outputs into high side and low side transistor drivers. The series resistor arrays right here pull the inputs of the transistors low. You can also see my bodge wire right here. Now I'm going to remove the driver board. This little printed part right here just supports the Raspberry Pi. And this is the rear of the Flipdot matrix board. Next I'm going to remove this. It's a pretty tight fit to get it all out. I have a piece of acrylic up front, and then a TPU spacer that goes around the Flipdots just to hold the matrix away from the acrylic. And then we're left with the board itself. Let's first look at how this board works. The driver board drives the matrix through all these pins on this side. There's a pin for every column and for every row. When we want to toggle a dot, the shift registers will turn one of the high side drivers on and the corresponding low side driver on. Let's look at how this works in more detail. As you originally saw in the demo, when you connect the power in one direction, the Flipdot will turn on, and when you reverse that direction, the Flipdot will turn off. So the question remains, what happens when we scale this up to a full matrix? This is just what an individual dot looks like in a matrix. And when we put those dots in a matrix like this, we just connect negatives to one side and positives to the other. We can see here that there's actually multiple paths that the electricity takes. So on the long dashed path, this is the intended path that we want to turn the dot on. But we can also see over here that it's taking this unintended path through these other Flipdots, because of course each Flipdot is just a coil of wire. So the way that we fix this is that we use diodes, and we have 2 individual lines for one of the sides on the Flipdot. So you can see that the positive here travels through the diode, reaches the Flipdot, and then travels back to negative. And then when we actually scale this up, we can see what happens here. So The negative side can travel through this diode along and get to this line. However, these stay off as there's no path down to this positive. And this positive will travel through here, through the diode, and make its way to bridge to the negative line and just turn this flip dot on. And here's the opposite scenario. When we reverse the polarity, we can see here that then the flip dot's turned off and no other flip dots are toggled. So in a full matrix, this is just a 8x8 one. You can see here that we have the column lines and then the row lines. So the rows are going to have a high side and a low side, and the columns you can have high and low on the same line. And when you're designing a matrix like this, in order to use the least number of outputs, you want to use which dimension has fewer flip dots. So in the full sign, I have 7 rows and 21 columns. And I use the split lines on the rows because there's only 7 of them. So that means that there's 14 outputs required plus the 21 column outputs. And here's what this looks like on a PCB. So we have the 2 row inputs into a double diode SMD. One of the diodes, of course, goes in one direction, the other goes in the opposite direction. And then there's the column pin right there. This PCB connects through a pin interface. You can see right here and right here, 2 of them, just for stability on the driver board. And all the signals are transmitted through there. This is what the driver looks like at a high level. The whole driver is just a shift register train that goes for every output. The shift registers direct their outputs into a transistor array. The reason that we use the transistor array is just to step up the amount of power that can be driven to the coils on the flip dot array. And it's important to note that the inputs to the transistor array are either pulled low or high depending on the type of transistor array, just to keep them always in an off state no matter what the inputs of the shift register are. But you can see here then that the outputs of the transistor array are going to be split for the case of the rows because we got the low sides over here and then the high sides. But for the columns, the low and the high side both ride on the same line. So the column 1 negative would also connect to column 1 positive, and then that would be sent into the array board. And here's what the PCB looks like for the driver board. It looks pretty messy, but essentially what this is just you have all the connections from the Raspberry Pi on the left, which sends its outputs into the shift register chain, which is all along here. The 9-pin devices in between are just the resistor arrays, which brings the inputs to the transistor driver to low or high. And then we go straight into the transistor driver, which sends its output into the pin interface onto the array. Over on the top right, we have some driver circuitry that just has the power conversion from 12 volt to 5 volt, as well as a resettable fuse and a barrel connector. Now I'm going to reassemble it. Now I can put back in the Raspberry Pi support, and then the driver board. And then the rear cover pops into place. And we can reinstall the screws. Just like that, the display has been reassembled. We can put the legs back in. And then I'll plug in the power. Here's a demo of the Flipdot software. Currently, it's in clock mode. The clock mode has many options, such as you can change the font. So there's bubble. You can change if you want it in 24-hour mode or not. Here's a game of the life simulation. You can do scrolling text, where it will go character by character. My personal favorite is weather. So we can see we have an icon for the current weather status as well as the temperature. You can also set the date. And of course there's off if you just don't want to display anything. The most fun mode is the canvas. In the canvas mode, I can stream to the display so that everything I do in here is live. On here you can draw anything you want, and you can even make inverted designs. Here's some close-ups during drawing. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.